Live stream is now in progress. President Davis, you may start the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the August 13th regular board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 6:02 p.m. Please note that staff has pulled closed session agenda item 4D2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and open session item 11J, deletion of board policy 6173, advanced academics and critical thinking. Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos. Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Zollinger. Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
Trustee Davis.
Here. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Adams.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Bullicus. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards regarding the adoption of the agenda?
There are none.
Great, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 5-0-0-2 to adopt the agenda. Mrs. Hayes, before the board recesses to closed session, is there anyone who would like to speak to a closed session agenda item?
There are none.
Thank you. The board will now recess to closed session to address the following agenda items. Student readmission, one case, conference with labor negotiators, CUEA, CSEA, Teamsters, CUMA, and unrepresented employees. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, 4 cases. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, 4 cases, and conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, 1 case. Public employee, employment and appointment, principal and principal middle school. Public employee discipline dismissal release, 1 case. The board will now recess to close session.
President Davis, the live stream is in progress. You may start the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the August 13th regular board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is now 7:04 p.m. Please note that staff has pulled closed session agenda item 4D2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and open session items 11J, deletion of board policy 6173, advanced academics and critical thinking. Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Zollinger is absent this evening. Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
Trustee Davis.
Here. The motion carries 601 to adopt the agenda. Mrs. Hayes, one moment, please. Okay, and we will move to the Pledge of Allegiance. And the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Joy Schnapper.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, can you please read the report from closed session?
On agenda item 3A, student expulsion, trustees voted 6-0-1 to approve staff recommendation on the following case. Case number 2025006. On agenda item 3B, conference with labor negotiators, no reportable action. On agenda item 3C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, trustees voted 6-0-1 to approve staff recommendations on the following ADR cases. Case number 20250619, 20250625, 20250702, 20250707. On agenda item 3D, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, trustees voted 6-0-1 to approve the staff recommendation on the following OAH case. Number 2025-030459. On agenda item 3E, public employee employment appointment, trustees voted 6-0-1 to appoint Christopher Nguyen, principal of Aliso Viejo Middle School, effective, Don Juan Avila Middle School, effective August 14th, 2025, tomorrow. On agenda item 3F, public employee discipline dismissal release, trustees voted 6-0-1 to approve resolution number 252601C. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I'd like to recognize Superintendent Dr. Chris Brown, who will present his opening comments, followed by any trustees.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August board meeting of the Capital Unified School District Board of Trustees. Summer break's nearly finished for our student in the audience. I know that they're lamenting that, and parents are rejoicing to send their students back to us. And our staff are working hard to make sure that our school sites are prepared. Our principals returned a few weeks ago and began working on their school sites. And a lot of our teachers actually have returned this week and this morning. We had an AI training for over 200 teachers earlier in the week. We had a special education teacher training with, again, over 200 teachers earlier in the week. And today we celebrated our new educators meeting, where all of our new teachers, counselors, nurses, psychologists came and learned about CUSD and began their excellent careers with us at the very beginning. And it's always great, although it makes me feel old, to see all those young, bright faces as they're just starting out on their career after college. As a district, we've talked many times, and we focus on a few core areas to support our mission. We focus, of course, on academic achievement, and we've done really well, and you'll hear some of that tonight. We focus on safety and well-being, finances, which you'll also hear about tonight, staying fiscally solvent. And in many board meetings, we're going to hear about a lot of these things as we go through the years. But one of our focus areas in particular is belonging and engagement. And research is clear that students perform better when they feel connected to their school. And this extends to their families as well. So we want our families to be welcomed at our sites. We want our students to be welcomed at our sites, and we want to be partners together. So as the year begins, I find it's a good time to encourage everyone to get involved at your school site. Visit a site council meeting. Better yet, if there's a spot open, join a site council. Volunteer in a library or a classroom. Join the PTSA. Follow the school social media accounts. Follow the district social media accounts. Join a parent group like ELAC or CAC. And for the middle and high school families, don't wait. Set up your Canvas Observer accounts as soon as you possibly can to stay connected with what your students are doing. This will help you experience many of the wonderful things that are happening, and importantly, this will engage you in helping to make our schools an even better spot for our students. So we encourage that engagement. It's one of the reasons that we're one of the highest achieving districts in the state, and we had really high growth last year, is the engagement of our students and our belonging and our families. And I wanted to finish, of course, as we start the year, by thanking all of the teachers, the classified staff, the administrators, and numerous parent volunteers who've worked tirelessly over the past few weeks to prep for the start of the year, get the classrooms ready, make the sites look beautiful, and I can't wait to start spending time out there visiting schools, meeting students, meeting families. I know that the students might not be excited, but it is truly, for me, the best time of year. I get to go visit schools again and see kids in action and see teachers doing what they do best. So that concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you. Trustees? Trustee Jones?
So I would like to talk about a retiree who we lost this week, Dr. Dan Birch, who was the first principal at Tesoro High School when it opened. And If you think opening a new high school is an easy task and you could do it, think again. He was a really multi-talented man. What's the movie, where they say all 5 tools? He had all 5 tools, and was really, he could just about do anything. After he retired, he came back and did an interim job as our assistant superintendent for special education. And then he also came back and was the interim principal at Tesoro for 1 semester when we were kind of between principals there. An amazing man. I was thinking about him a couple weeks ago, and I'm so sorry that I didn't reach out. I thought about it, but you always think you have time, and I didn't have time, and I didn't know that. So enough about that. I wanted to welcome Chris Nguyen to our district. He's coming from Irvine. I think he'll do a great job, and it's always great to have new blood come in as well. I'm going to stand up and show you my butterfly t-shirt that I got from Marco. I worked there at registration 2 days this week. What a wonderful school Marco is, and the butterfly is their spirit wear this year. And I guess their spirit animal is the butterfly. They, and there's a story with the butterfly that students go through different stages. And if you know middle schoolers, some of them spend a lot of time in that chrysalis stage. But the story that the principal told me was that I guess was someone who saw a butterfly struggling to get out of the chrysalis and decided they would help it. And the butterfly has a natural way of getting out where they flap their wings to dry them, and if you help it, it's maybe not so helpful, and their wings are still wet and they can't fly, and some of them perish. So I know as a parent, sometimes we give too much help to our kids. Teachers give too much help. Siblings and other students sometimes give too much help. Sometimes they need to go through that process. And I thought it was such a lovely sentiment for this t-shirt. And I'm going to show you again. And a really, really nice looking t-shirt as well. So congratulations to the students at Marco, and looking forward to another great year there. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Walkus?
Good evening. I'm a really different parent. Right from the start at Bathgate, I never liked summer to end. I never wanted to send my kids back to school. I enjoyed every minute with them. So different. During my kids' age of going to school, I really enjoyed summer. But today, I'm very happy about the return to school because I had a student who reached out to me by email and wanted to know if he could meet with me. And he wanted to share something that he had given great thought to and started. This is a Tesoro student who is a senior this year. And I met with him yesterday, and based on the information that he had sent to me, and a little bit of dialogue on text messaging, I asked a community member that was a mutual friend of ours and a former CUSD teacher to join us in the conversation, and his mom joined us. And so the 5 of us met yesterday, and wow, what a conversation we had for 2 hours. We have a thought leader in the room. I would like to have Carter Green at the back. Please stand up and give a wave to the audience. Wait till I tell you what this young man has spent his summer doing. He has started a nonprofit organization, but he's only 17, so his mom had to sign, hence the assistant in the room. But he wants to take this, or has plans to take this at Tesoro where he goes to school when we have Club Rush and start a club. He's already reached out to other CUSD schools. In fact, he has 15 schools signed up from Pennsylvania to North Carolina and many schools in and out of CUSD. So what's the club? The club, and Carter has brought, there's a flyer in the back of the room and his business cards. It is called Bridge. And Bridge, to build respect, initiate dialogue, grow empathy. Be the bridge, not the barrier. And I have to tell you, the amount of time, because there was I had questions that I wrote out that I wanted to ask. He created the logo with two students shaking hands and on a bridge. He created the tagline, created two really terrific videos that we watched, and gave a really powerful PowerPoint presentation. Went through all the steps. So, like I said, we had a teacher in the room, a parent, and a community member, and we peppered him with all kinds of questions. And we were all so impressed. So, what is the mission for Bridge? It's to build respect, creating foundations for meaningful connections across differences, to grow empathy, developing understanding through student-led initiatives, initiate dialogue, starting conversations that matter in high school communities. So when I say he's given a lot of thought, here's some of the meeting topics that he has prepared. And I mean prepared. What is empathy? Assumptions and bias. Bridge building conversations. The power of listening. Conflict without cruelty. Be the bridge, action planning. And so we talked through a lot of matters in terms of, well, you know, when you get a room full of students in and the kinds of topics that you're going to cover, and every step of the way, he really had given a great deal of thought. We gave him some feedback, and he has already talked to a counselor at his school. So I want to, for any principals or teachers or counselors out there listening to our board meeting, I would really like when a chapter leader from your school approaches you to pay attention and to listen and think in terms, if you can't, who at your school could support this endeavor? Like I say, he already has approached and has chapter leaders in 15 different schools across the United States. And there will be chapter meetings. There's all kinds of training. There are adults in place and college students who are interested in this and helping to, you know, be included in the dialogue. And I just have to say, so well thought out, so needed. There's all kinds of activities, community involvement that he has thought through to engage in the conversation and to be able to open up dialogue, and most especially with empathy, listen to one another. So from a student to another student, I would certainly like to see our students supported who want to do this on campus. So Carter, thank you so much, and thank you for being here tonight. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Other trustees? Okay. Well, I just would like to welcome students and staff and teachers and friends and family and kids as they start school. Yes, my friend in the front row. Welcome back to school next year. It's going to be a great year. It's definitely set up for amazing things to be happening. I hope everyone has enjoyed summer break and spent a lot of time with family and friends and got to do the things that they love to do. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Nguyen, and this is a special time with new pencils and new papers and new notebooks and a new shirt and new shoes, the things that kind of come with a new school year. So it's kind of a very special time. Had an opportunity to visit with each of the principals and my 9 schools in San Clemente, and they are over the moon excited. So it's going to just, it has all the parts and pieces to makings of a great year. And I'd like to acknowledge the retirees listed on this month's agenda. For the certificate employees on this month's agenda, Dana Wares, elementary teacher for 24 years, and Ruth Tice, an adaptive PE teacher for 9 years. And as for the classified employees this month, Edgar Torres is custodian for 28 years. Janet Valella, instructional assistant for preschool for 24 years. Becca Polson, instructional materials specialist for 21 years. And Holly Beck, school bus driver for 10 years. So just a little shout out for some of those special ones that are retiring and spent so much time with us many, many years. Okay, and with that, we'll move over to oral communications. The total time for oral communication shall be 20 minutes. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for oral communications?
We have 10 speaker cards, so we'll set the time to 2 minutes per each speaker per board policy. I'm going to call your names and ask that you line up on the far side of the room, and then we'll have you come to the podium when it's your time to speak. Our first speaker is Mary Ann, and then lining up behind Mary Ann is Rudy, Bradley, Mary, Linda, Lisa, Gina, Lisa Myers, Aitham Abul, and Pam. Mary Ann, you're up first.
I'm very nervous. Good evening, distinguished trustees, Dr. Brown, executive cabinet, and my wonderful community members. My name is Mary Ann Markheim, and I am a very, very proud disabled adult. I'm also a special educator in your neighboring district, and right now I am a student of law. I have 3 children attending Capo schools. Tonight, I'm here because I want to highlight and celebrate Miss Dorcas Sinico. This is very emotional for me. Miss Sinico was the preschool teacher for all 3 of my children at George White Elementary School. She is amazing. My middle child, who attended George White last year and is now transitioning to Niguel Hills this year, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes after going into diabetic ketoacidosis over the summer. I had no idea. I was possibly more concerned with my own students' medical fragility than paying attention to my own. I had communicated shortly with her in the hospital, and she took it upon herself to get in touch with another Capo teacher, Ms. Kelly Basher, who went beyond the call of their jobs. They contacted other parents and got me a huge amount of support by the time we left the hospital. I know that you guys are dealing with issues with declining enrollment, funding, and budget deficits, increase in SPED, and increase in behavior, the cost of staff, negotiations. Please remember, at the heart of all of this is teachers like Miss Sinico and Miss Basher, who are creating communities that are going to sustain each other.
Thank you so much for your time. We have to go on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Rudy Klaus. Rudy, please come forward.
Hi. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Those who remember nothing are doing all the evil things. You guys have to have a memory and history. You guys are repeating history. We've got a huge problem with the Muslim invasion. Prior to my writing all of my dissertations on COVID and COVID vax science in 2020, I was already writing about the Muslim invasion problem. 6 years have went by, and now you guys are all familiar with the Muslim invasion, Sharia law, what's happening in the United States with Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Minneapolis, Minnesota, what's happening in Western Europe as all part of the World Economic Forum agenda to get rid of Western society, mainly the white man first, because of the white man collective intelligence. It's the greatest force on the earth. We created Western civilization. I wrote the solution to the problem of the Muslims. I'm the first to state it. Diagnosis, Muslim mental illness. The book I was writing, The End of Islam, talking about Obama's caliphate on the United States to turn the United States into the US of Islam by 2030. They're quickly on that agenda now. What we do is we implement psychological quality control. We set up the US Congressional Muslim Ideology Trials. They will have to come in with their imams and admit to convert or die. That is mental illness. Then it will be over for them. They will not be allowed in positions of authority in government institution anywhere in the United States. No more Mondani threat. Congressional hearings, the Muslim Ideology Trial.
Mr. Kraus, your time is up. Our next speaker is Bradley.
How do I follow that?
Go ahead, Bradley.
All right, thank you. I would like to take my time today to express my concern just about the general longevity and future of public education as a whole. Another month has passed, and another month of drastic cuts to public education by the current Trump regime and to the Department of Education at the federal level are just further indications of this current administration's plans to create a crisis of legitimacy for public education. And that just means by cutting, gutting, and undermining public education, it becomes untenable and inefficient. And people who rely on it will then start to blame public education as a whole as opposed to those who have undermined it. And this is the playbook that we've seen take place in states like Texas and has been outlined by organizations like the Heritage Foundation. And I'm personally concerned that this may happen in our district as well, because a close family relative of mine attended a panel hosted by the very same Heritage Foundation where several board members participated in the panel. I've also seen, personally, at least one board member participate in a rally on the last election day in support of this current regime member, Donald Trump. So my question is, do these board members also support the undermining of public education taking place by the Trump regime? And how can we trust their decisions to stand up for the students, teachers, and parents of our district? I would also like to add on in my last 10 seconds that I'm still very concerned about the Trump regime's use of immigration policy to terrorize our communities and would like to see this district take loud action against it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary.
Good evening, Board. I would like just to talk today about AB 495, which is a threat to parental rights. There are a lot of euphemisms like the Inflation Reduction Act, Safety Act was 1955, and that obviously separated parents and children, which was very dangerous. It wasn't safety. Now we have the Family Preparedness Act, which is Assembly Bill 495, and it's dubbed that incorrectly by Rodriguez. Erin Friday, who, if you know her, she is a wonderful lawyer, and she's the attorney and president of Our Duty USA. She said that there's no background check, no welfare check, no court oversight, no verification. They need a piece of paper as some form of identification. No obligation for the adult handling the child to verify identification. And presto, somebody could walk away with your child. Rodriguez's claim that it's narrowly tailored for immigration is not true. The bill's language implies that any child, for any reason, regardless of immigration status, can be used this way. The stranger can consent to medical treatments for the child, and the bill absolves the doctors from any liability should there be a problem. We're talking about a legal pathway for predators, relinquishing parental rights to unvetted strangers under the guise of compassion. Nicole Pearson, also founder of the Facts Law, Truth, Justice, she agrees. There are unintended consequences that are terrifying, that are unavoidable. The bill has very vague definitions and lack of procedural guidelines. We're missing 600,000 children, undocumented minors, and it's because our government has all these very vague policies. It's a license to take vulnerable children and make them disappear. What the bill actually does, expands who qualifies as a caregiver, authorizes the use of caregiver's authorization affidavit, just a piece of paper you can print on the internet, grants caretakers.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Linda. Linda, please come forward.
I'm also going to speak about AB 495. I'm sure you are all aware of the potential negative impacts of AB 495 on parental rights. AB 495 lets a non-relative extended family member sign a caregiver's authorization affidavit, granting school enrollment and medical decisions with no court oversight or verification. The bill permits any adult, even a neighbor or family friend, to claim caregiver status with no background checks, no photo ID, and no parental notification. Though framed as an aid to undocumented or migrant families, the text applies statewide to every child. Any family in California could find their parental authority bypassed. AB 495 allows non-relative caregivers to bypass existing procedures for guardianship, raising concerns about accountability and child welfare. In conclusion, AB 495 risks eroding core parental rights by enabling undisclosed, unchecked individuals to assume significant authority over children. It's a serious overreach into the sanctity of the family and the safety of children. I pray that this is not signed into law.
Our next speaker is Lisa.
Good evening, CUSD. You look fabulous up here on the dais. You too in the audience. I'd like to invite you all to join us in Sacramento. Pastor Jack Hibbs will be praying and preaching against AB 495 on the Capitol steps all day long. Nowhere in the bill does it specify that this is only for children of deported illegal aliens. Nicole Pearson, who was mentioned earlier, she offered to lend her legal expertise for free to the author of this bill so that they could specify that if that indeed was the case. It's not. This bill, in combo with the litany of other California bad bills, will put all children in public school at risk. And not even just in California. The way that the laws are, since California is a sanctuary state for transgendering a child, this is a danger for the whole United States. So please be there, help us fight this, help us pray against it, and if it does succeed, please consider adopting a resolution like Sonia Shaw has already suggested for her school district. We must protect the children. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Our next speaker is Gina.
Good evening. As a mother and advocate for my son, I'm here to share some reflections about his educational experience and the importance of fairness and transparency for all children. At my son's former school, a mural displays a rotary four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it bring goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That mural sits symbolically behind a chain-link fence, as if the truth itself has been caged. That word all should mean everyone, but in practice, all means most. Similarly, greater good is often interpreted as what benefits the majority, but true greater good means justice and fairness that include every individual, especially minorities and those with unique needs who are too often excluded. The school my son attended is known for helping students with exceptional needs, but only certain ones. If you're one of the unlucky few outside their comfort zone, you're segregated into a class with others who share similar challenges, not because it's best for the child, but because it's administratively convenient. In my son's case, Adults ignore trauma-informed strategies from experts like Dr. Ross Green, who reminds us children with trauma don't need more punishment, and frankly, they don't need more stickers. Instead of adjusting ineffective interventions, they locked into a predetermined path, trying to squeeze my child into a system that could never serve him. I leave you with this. What if that was your child? But more importantly, what if that was you? I stand here not just for my son, but for every child who deserves to be seen, heard, and supported. Thank you for listening.
Our next speaker is Lisa Myers. Lisa, please come forward.
Good evening, Superintendent Brown and trustees. I previewed the AP presentation that will be shared later this evening, and we should be so proud of our Capo students for their strong results and the increased participation by all subgroups. The next steps that are planned seem like excellent goals for our students and our schools. Unfortunately, last spring when those tests were given, our community was living in more normal times. Now ICE has been out in our communities and our neighbors are scared. News from LAUSD this week was shared by their superintendent, Alberto Calvera, is that federal agents approached a family who had a 15-year-old boy with significant disabilities in their car on the way to school. It turned out that entire fear incident was just a case of mistaken identity. Before students can focus on their education, they need to feel secure in their environment. Safety and feeling welcomed is essential for a thriving school, and if students don't feel safe and welcomed, it will be a struggle for them to learn, let alone to succeed in an AP classroom. To further quote Superintendent Carvalho, as our students return to school, we are calling on every community partner to help ensure that classrooms remain places of learning and belonging. Children have been through enough, from the pandemic to natural disasters. They should not have to carry the added weight of fear when walking through their school gates. I hope for a very welcoming and uneventful school year for all our schools, the teachers, the staff, and all of our students. Thank you.
Mr. Abul.
Hi, I was going to keep this short, but I want to say shame on the bigot that was up here expressing his Islamophobia. I'm a proud Arab American Muslim, proud American, and I don't think this board would accept that if he was talking about Judaism or Christianity. So shame on this board and shame on him. Now I'm going to pivot to the reason that I came here today. The Trump administration has defunded the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The defunding of the CPB is a tragedy. We all owe a lot to the edutainment that is offered by PBS and the unvarnished news from NPR, which were funded by CPB. For decades in classrooms across America, kids were taught with the aid of PBS programs like Sesame Street, but now that's at risk. In its place, PragerU is being floated by those with an agenda detrimental to our children. The founder of PragerU has admitted that his goal is to indoctrinate children in right-wing ideology. There is more than enough space in our love for America to allow us to know its flaws and aim to make this a better country. I'm not naive, but your positions are meant to be nonpartisan, and that is what we expect of you. Keep PragerU's agenda out of our schools and do not allow our children to be indoctrinated. Thank you.
Pam.
Hi, this is just a reminder to the board and parents and students that there is now a legitimate California state parent and student opt-out notice that parents and students can fill out if they are so inclined, if they want to not have to take instructions on certain classes that conflict with their beliefs or moral convictions. There's 9 different boxes of different items that can be checked off. And again, it's just a reminder to the board that this, I probably know it already, but also to the parents, that until we can opt into classes that we want to take, now we have to opt out of them for parents to make sure that their students are not put in a class that they don't want them to be in. So I'm just reminding parents to be aware, to be informed, and to use the opt-out sheet for your child if needed. And I do want to thank the board for all that you've done this year, for your strong convictions for parental rights and protecting the students and the parents. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Thank you, Mrs. Hayes. Thank you, speakers. We'll be moving on to discussion action items and 11A. We have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-01. Resolution to Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as a legislative body of Community Facilities, District Number 90-2 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Talega, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facilities Districts Number 90-2 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Talega, for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Jones.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Adams. I'd like to recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, who will introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis, trustees. So this item and the 6 items following it, or a yearly item, we always do it in August. It establishes the tax levy for each of the 7 CFDs that we have in Capistrano Unified.
Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, Mrs. Hayes, please call the roll. Or, I'm sorry, trustee discussion. Comments, questions? Okay, there being none, Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. The motion carries 601. Moving to 11B, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-02, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as the legislative body for improvement area number 2002-1 of Community Facilities District number 90-2 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Talega, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facilities Districts number 90-2, IA of the Capistrano Unified School District, Talega, for fiscal year 25-26.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Bullicus, seconded by Trustee Jones. Thank you. Trustee Adams. I'd like to recognize Clark Hampton to introduce the item.
It'll be the same thing for each item. It's establishing a levy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
There are none. Trustees, discussion? Okay, there being none, Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. The motion carries 601. Moving to 11C, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-03, resolution of Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities District number 98-1 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Pacifica, San Juan, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facilities District 98-1A of the Capistrano Unified School District, Pacifica, San Juan, for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Adams.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Jones. And Clark Hampton.
So same, this is, I apologize you have to read these, each one of them, but it's the same. It's just establishing the levy for the CFD. Thank you.
For San Juan, thank you. Ms. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
There are none. And discussion? There being none, Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 601. Moving to 11D. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-04, Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities District Number 98-1B of the Capistrano Unified School District, Pacifica San Juan, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facilities Districts Number 98-1B of the Capistrano Unified School District, Pacifica San Juan for fiscal year 25-26.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Jones. Seconded by trustee Bullicus. Clark Hampton.
Same, this establishes 98-1B levy for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
And trustees, discussion?
I do have one question or
Yes, please.
just a reminder. If any of us own real property in these areas, we don't have to recuse ourselves any longer, correct?
No, there's no need to recuse because it is equal impact across the entire area.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Hayes, please call the roll.
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0-1. Moving on to 11E, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-05, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities District Number 98-2 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Ladera, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facility Districts 98-2 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Ladera, for fiscal year 25-26.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Adnams,
Second.
seconded by trustee Jones. Clark Hampton.
Same. Establishes the levy for the CFDs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay. And Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye, the motion carries 6-0-1. Moving on to 11F, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-06, the resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities, District Number 2004-1 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Rancho Madrina, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facilities District Number 2004-1 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Rancho Madrina, for fiscal year 2025-26. I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by trustee Adams, seconded by trustee Jones. Clark Hampton, would you like to introduce this item?
Same. For establishing levy for next year.
Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
There are none. Trustee discussion? Okay. Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0-1. Moving to 11G, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-07, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Capistrano Unified School District, acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities District Number 2005-1 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Whispering Hills, authorizing the levy of special taxes in Community Facilities District Number 2005-1 of the Capistrano Unified School District, Whispering Hills, for fiscal year 25-26. I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Jones. Seconded by trustee Bullicus. Clark Hampton, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, President Davis. Thank goodness it's only done once a year, but there is something different on this one. We still are levying at 100% of the authorized because this is the one CFD that we still have some bonding capacity on.
Okay, could you expand on that just a little bit for?
No, all of them we are at 110%. This one is at 100% of the maximum allowable. The others are at like roughly 50 to 60% of the maximum.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
There are none.
Okay, there are none. Trustees, discussion? There being none, Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0-1. Moving to 11H, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 2526-09, preliminary 24-25 financial statements, unaudited actuals.
I move the
Item.
resolution 252609.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Bulkus.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Adams. I'd like to recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, who will introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis. So as the other presentation. I'll do this one for you, Greg. So, back. So this, we're going to just briefly go over the unaudited actuals. So at this point in time, we revised the budget for, based on the governor's signing of the final budget. So it's an opportunity to revise the 25-26 budget, but also report out on the actuals that are not audited yet from the previous year. So that's where so just a high-level summary, the federal government briefly froze some portions of federal funds to school districts, namely the title funds, and those were frozen for a short period of time, but now they've recently been unfrozen. So we expect, and we will be receiving those funds this year. It didn't amount to a lot of money in relation to our entire budget. It was $2.06 million. Then also there's no net increase in K-12 funding from the federal government, which kind of makes sense if they're freezing money and unfreezing it. We can't expect to be getting any net increases in funding from the federal government. And then also we're no longer receiving or spending any COVID relief funding from the federal government. Now, California education budget, there was some good news in May where the revenue was exceeding expectations for the state of California, although their outlook is still tepid, flat revenue and some deficits in the future, but we'll see how that plays out later this year. But the focus for the states remains on transitional kindergarten, special education investments, and early literacy. So the implementation of TK now as a full ADA program is part of that focus that the state has on early education. So also for the state, there's no more COVID funds. We're at the end of the era. We've fully spent out all the COVID relief funds, and now we're kind of back to normal. Hopefully it's another 100 years before the next pandemic, but we'll see. So Capistrano Unified School District, our fiscal planning. So as you know, we're in declining enrollment for the school district, so that makes it a challenge fiscally for school districts. So we want to focus on the proactive budget adjustments so that we can do this gracefully over time, early. You may remember that we talked about making reductions last June. We started early, and that has a very significant positive impact on our multi-year projection, but it's a work in progress. We have to continually be working to right-size our budget as our enrollment declines. So the things that happened to us internally, which is enrollment, we have to address those ourselves, and then so we can be ready for any calamity that may occur outside. Okay, so we are still advocating for the higher base grant for some adjustments to LCFF to better benefit Capistrano Unified, and then increasing special education funding, particularly some federal work that needs to be done so that the federal government will meet its promise of 40% funding of special ed versus the 6 to 8% that there are at now. So our fiscal strategy is to steer around the pothole so that we don't have to replace any tires. So it takes a little longer to get around the pothole, but that's why start early, go slow, and make those changes over time. We maintain conservative projections. Our projections for enrollment attendance is 94.5%. We have always traditionally, prior to COVID, been at around 96%, so we're really hoping over the next several years that we can kind of bring those back up to the pre-COVID levels, and we still are having incentives with our schools to help bring that back. So we are also examining school site capacities and right-sizing programs and staffing for student enrollment, prioritizing stability for students. The goal is doing this early and consistently and staying ahead of the curve on budget issues maintains that stability for students, which is so important. And then we want to protect our reserves for unforeseen external fiscal calamities. So to the extent we can make sure we're on target with our budgets for our needs and can make those reductions and build our reserves, we can protect ourselves from external issues like suddenly an economic issue where the state is reducing funding. We have some cushion, again, to maintain that stability for students. And then utilizing attrition, another aspect is the human aspect is when you start early and do it through attrition, you're not impacting people significantly. You can make reductions in staffing through attrition versus layoffs. It always is a much better way to go. So now this is just how we spend our money. It's a pie chart that shows just where most of our funding goes, and a majority of it is in salaries and benefits. About 79.5% is salary and benefits. We're a human organization. We greet 40,000 students a day with adults, and so most of our expenses go towards people. Then on the revenue side, 75% of our revenue is LCFF revenue. So the LCFF revenue is the funding formula that the state gives to school districts, and it's a mix of your local, this represents a mix of our local property taxes plus what the state backfills us with. And Capistrano Unified's local taxes or property taxes are about 84% of that blue piece of pie. So we're very close to being basic aid. And that 84% is after transfers to charter schools, because the charter school transfer comes from local property taxes. The majority of our funding from LCFF is local. And then the rest is state revenue. The rest of the state revenue is grants and targeted revenue for schools. And then we have federal revenue, which is very small. You can see it's only 3% of our total budget. And then the remaining local revenue is like fees and gifts and things like that. So this is our multi-year projection as we sit now. We have our reserve balance. It shows a decline, but that's reflective of what our projections are, is with the tepid COLAs in the future, and then the decline in enrollment, increasing costs in special education because of the lack of funding. When you project out with no changes, it looks like this, but we are in the process of making ongoing reductions. So the red bars, we don't ever get to the red bars.
Yeah. And just to clarify that the reserves were high due to ADA hold harmless during the COVID era, as well as the COVID funds. So basically we took short-term COVID funds and spread out their expenditures over a longer period of time to have a greater impact over a longer period. So that's why we're going to be deficit spending, but still have money in reserve. But it's already accounted for. We know how we're spending it. It's already in the budgets, right? So as we then use the standard budget we'll get to a 2.5% to 4% reserve, and we will no longer be able to deficit spend, right? So the COVID money's gone, no new COVID money going in, but a few of our plans were multi-year plans using that money. So that's what you see with the deficit spending, is the finishing of those multi-year support plans.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Philippa Townsend to go over some of the details behind the assumptions in our budget.
So as Clark mentioned, we did have a problem with our title funds. At the time that the news came out, we were starting our budget revisions for the revised budget, and we already had these grants in the budget along with the expenditures. So based on advice from various state agencies, we went in and took those all out of the budget. And then 2 weeks later, we had to put them all back in again. So they are in this budget now, and we're very happy to have them back. Title III, we do not expect to get next year, but that was already planned before this all happened. So we've already been making some plans to what we would do without that money. And then based on the May revise, we did get all the major sources of money we were hoping for, which is the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, the one-time discretionary block grant, and the extra money for the transitional kindergarten class size reduction. So in transitional kindergarten, and we have about 77 classes right now, so hopefully more.
They had 24 kids last year in a class, and now they have 20 kids. So 20 students come in the morning, 10 students come in the morning, 10 students come in the afternoon, and they overlap in the middle. And during that period of overlap is when we put an instructional aid into the class to keep the student to adult ratio at 10:1. So our multi-year projections, as Clark said, as you saw on the chart, we have 5 years in our multi-year projection. The 5th year isn't going to be very close because it's so far away, but we have that in there so we can see which direction we're going with our revenues and keep an eye on what we need to watch out for. We start the multi-year projection with the current budget, and then we use that along with any assumptions from School Services of California, CDE, the U.S. Department of Education, and the State Department of Education to determine what adjustment factors we need to use in the out years, such as the cost of living adjustment, inflation, employee statutory benefits, and things like that. On top of that, we go in and look at what grants we might lose or gain in out years, and we also look at local factors such as how many students are coming, what our staffing levels need to be, and if we're building a new school like we are in right now with Rienda, we have to plan for staffing for that school and instructional materials. So we have all that in the multi-year projection. On the multi-year projection, we also have to make sure that the 3 current years are, in the 3rd year, we have a reserve of at least 2% to meet the requirements of the state. So the next update we will be doing will be in December with the first interim budget, where we can update you on the number of students we received once school opens next week, along with our staffing levels, any new grants we've received, and any other funding changes or expenditure changes that we have. Along with that, in January, we will get the results, the audited results of the 24-25 fiscal year. Our auditors will be here in 2 weeks. They will be going through all our numbers, verifying they're all correct, and the audit report will be presented to you in January. With that, we would like you to adopt Resolution 252609, the preliminary financial statement. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, trustees, discussion? Okay, Trustee Jones?
I have more of a comment than a question. As you mentioned, the federal funds that were held back have now been released. I think not a lot of people weren't aware of that. I did get an email about it and was surprised to find out that it had all been released. So that's great. I got, I don't know, maybe half a dozen emails on that topic when it first came out. But I have never, in my 11 years on this board, gotten an email about what the state does to us practically every day of the week, taking away funds in the form of unfunded mandates. Only once have we had, that I can recall, a federal fund cut, but we get state cuts every year and many times during the year with unfunded mandates. And I would like to ask the people in the audience, anyone who's listening or watches the tape, pay attention to this. I'll bring them to your attention when the bills are pending, but we don't even always know, because sometimes it comes in a budget trailer bill that no one examines. It's like a committee comes up with it at the last minute. And there was the famous one that Dr. Brown and I have talked about on many occasions, and Trustee Bullicus and I, was the change in the TK class size. It was originally going to be 12-1 or 24-1, depending on how you count. And it was abruptly changed in a budget trailer bill to 10-1 without funding. That's a $1.9 million expense to this district. No one ever talks about this. We blame Washington when they are taking away funds. No one here, I have never gotten an email from someone saying, why aren't you protesting this? We protest it plenty, but we never hear from the public about it. And interestingly to me, I'm sorry to get partisan here, but Democrats are generally viewed as being supporters of public education. But these unfunded mandates almost exclusively come from Democrats, almost exclusively. And when Superintendent Brown and Trustee Bullicus and I go and talk to our Republican members, they're like, oh no, this is terrible, and they vote against them. The Democrats all vote for them. And it is a scandal. It is a scandal, the amount of cuts we get from the state that go completely unnoticed. Recently, there was a new school improvement bond that passed. And in that, this is not legislative, but I'm sure someone in the legislature wrote it, that along with that, we have to do a complete district school facility plan. Is it every 3 years or every 5 years? Every 5 years. Again, this is going to cost us, what, $1 million to do? A lot of money. No one has ever said a word about this. We need you to say words. We need you to contact members of the legislature, contact your friends in other communities and tell them about this, because we are chewed to death over these cuts. And yet when it comes from the federal government, everyone gets all excited. So I just wanted to bring that up. It is really, really painful in this district and in all districts in California when this happens. Thank you.
Well said, Trustee Jones, thank you.
I
Other
just have
trustee comments?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Not that I disagree with you, Trustee Jones, but I think that we have to always remember that IDEA was promised from the federal government, and yet that's never been fully funded. So although we may take a lot of cuts locally at the state level, the federal government has never come through with money. So the school districts, local school districts, are always battling funding because we're trying to levy state versus federal and make it work here for our students. So there's always a funding crisis. We never have enough money for public education, and that's a huge problem when you're trying to educate, and education is becoming more expensive as we look into the future. My questions just are around, can we go over kind of some basics just so we have clear understanding of what, like Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV? Can you just go over specifically like what those titles are for in specific funding categories? Is that something you know, Philippa? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but.
So Title II is teacher quality.
Okay.
Title III is limited English proficient and immigrant, I think.
Like ELLs.
There's two kinds, yes.
And Title III is the one that's not coming back next year, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Title IV is kind of school safety, drug-free.
Okay. And Title I?
Title I is for low-performing students, and the piece that was held back. Yes, that's I think
okay.
Migrant
family.
Yeah, the Title I-C section we don't qualify for, so that section that was being held back by the federal government wasn't an impact. It was the other titles that would have impacted us.
Okay, thank you. And then when we were, let's see, I had a couple of others that I wrote down. 1 second. I love advocating for LCF-based grant funding and sustainable SPED funding, but specifically like when we're looking at the state level, do we get a lot of monies specifically for SPED, or are all of those federal monies that are coming in like through IDEA?
We get more state money than we do federal money.
More state, so we're just advocating then that that would increase per student for our special education students.
And the problem with state-funded special ed funding is that it's based on the total number of students you have.
Okay.
So if your special ed population is increasing, but your enrollment is declining,
Uh-huh.
then your funding is going to decline even though your students are increasing.
Ah, got it. That's what is happening right now in Capo. Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's a good point to make. And then this is a question, this is a pie in the sky question, so there is no right answer, but I'm just curious because as I look at other state and how they fund public schools, and our average LCFF base funding is 10,000 per student, correct? Around that average, we get more for bigs than littles, correct? And so if we're averaging $10,000 per student, if we're reaching for something, maybe Dr. Brown wants to answer this, what is a great funding number that you're reaching for?
Hold on, I'm gonna do a little division.
Okay, perfect, I love it. I am always I look at Massachusetts and New York, and their funding is quite significantly higher than California. So I'm just curious as to what could we do? What is the cost, and then what would we really benefit from?
It would dramatically change our ability to do stuff, especially when we talk about the equity of special ed funding and things like that. If we
Right.
said something like $2,700 more per student,
Okay,
would be a vast difference. It would completely change. It would balance out the number that we don't get from the federal government
okay,
and the overage from one side of the general fund to the other, from the
Right.
special ed overage.
right.
So just $2,650 per kid would round that
Would
out.
change
Mhm.
a lot of things.
Yeah, it'd be about
Okay.
$110 million.
Okay,
And actually, I think we would get a certain amount of that if the funding on average daily attendance just went to enrollment.
enrollment.
That would be a huge win right there. And some 20 years ago, that's what came in, and it was just a way for the state to pay less to public schools. And, you know, that you get it's the same cost to educate a kid whether they're in school or not. You still need all the same stuff.
Correct, yeah.
I'd like to just speak on that real quick, because one of the things they talk about the enrollment funding, remember the Prop 98 guarantee is a limit, so what I would project would happen if they went to enrollment-based is you would get less per student over time, because they would still meet the Prop 98 guarantee, it would just be spread out over more.
For those of us who remember Prop 98, right, the whole debate at the time was, would it be a floor or a ceiling, right? And the goal was for it to be a floor, but it has become a ceiling, right? And so, and there's a couple ways around that, but a lot of our pie in the sky ideas, right, one of the things that we've talked about asking our legislators for is when you talk about concentration and supplemental grants and the students who qualify for that, special education students should be an unduplicated student that qualifies for that. Like, their needs are great. And so, but if Prop 98 stays as the ceiling, all it does is lower the entire slice of each pie, right? So there has to be some other discussion that has to happen.
Yeah, okay.
But that goes back to our whole raise the base conversation that we've been having for years now. Because through LCFF, they were trying to fix it, making it more fair, but it didn't work out that way. Because it's supplemental we get and not concentration, or is it the other way around?
That's correct. We get some supplemental, we get no concentration.
Yeah. And so that is the inequity where some school districts, they've got tons of money and their performance doesn't show that money seems to be well spent, because we statistically do better, but yet we could be doing so much better if we had the proper funding.
And then just one last question with the attendance. Are we going to do attendance incentives this year? Did they work last year for us, or how do we feel?
So the first year we did it we did really well. It really helped a lot. Second year, this past year, things kind of slowed down a little bit. So we're going to continue with the incentive. So so our projections in our budget are 94.5%. So that's the bogey to hit. And if we get anything better than that, then it brings additional funding into what our budget projections are. So we're going to have the 94.5% is the bottom, you have to exceed that to get an incentive, and then, or better than where you ended last year if it was higher.
And what was our pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, like
attendance?
96%, sometimes
96.
96.5%,
Yeah.
which fluctuate around that.
Yeah,
Was much.
96. All right,
And
thank
just
you.
to be clear for the millions and millions of viewers at home, this is not a capo issue where only we are struggling with attendance and everyone else has figured it out. We actually do very, very well, and the incentive it worked, and our attendance is not nearly where we'd like it to be and not where it was, but it's not as far off as some other systems. It's a state and actually national issue where post-COVID, the daily attendance rate just hasn't recovered.
1.5% is not.
I have a question. So when there is a major catastrophe, let's say a fire or something, and whether it's one school or an area of schools, not just USD, that are affected in terms of attendance because maybe people have to evacuate and all. When it hits a certain level, a school district can submit to the state
You get a waiver for that
and get a
loss.
waiver.
And they'll put you back to where you should have been if you didn't have that happen.
So the question's been asked a lot with the whole situation of ICE and immigration and all. If we have a school that is being heavily, consistently hit, or maybe it's a one here that, do we have any ability to submit on that, or what's going on with that? Because one day last year, I don't remember what day it was. I mean, I think we had one school that was like 50%. So how does that play into this, or does it? Thank you.
It does. When we are notified that there's been an event at a school site or a few school sites where attendance has been impacted, we do test it. So we have to compare the current year with a similar period in the prior year and check if there's a big difference. And it has to be 10% or more. And if we have that, then we can submit a claim. But often we test it and it doesn't rise to that level.
They're evaluated on a case by case. So like a senior ditch day, they would.
Well, senior ditch day will be after P2, so.
Oh, well, we want it to be after P2 for everybody. But there's certain things the state's just not going to help you out on, as much as we might.
Trustees, other questions? Okay, I've got a couple. The TK, you said we had 77 classes this year. What did we have last year?
53, I think.
53, okay. And then can you talk a little bit about basic aid? You kind of touched on it for just one quick second, but if one of you could talk a little about basic aid and how we can get to basic aid, and are we working on that, and what can we do?
We can't
And explain
work on it to get
basic
there.
aid for our millions of listeners out there.
So it's just something that happens to us, and it's when our property tax increases to an extent that we get to what's called basic aid status in the LCFF calculator. And some people think it's like no state aid received whatsoever, but it's actually a base level of state funding that we get. Once we're at that level, and I want to say that level is 30 million in state funding for LCFF, then we're considered basic aid, and we keep extra property taxes that come into the district. So we get funded higher than our LCFF calculator would say that we got funded. The problem is your property taxes, if you have charters, is reduced by whatever number of students are in those charters. So the more charter school students we get, the less property tax funding we have. And so that's what's been happening for decades now, is our property tax, no matter how quickly it goes up each year based on assessed value, it's being capped by the need to transfer it out to the charter schools, because the charter schools have been increasing enrollment for 20 years now. We did see a leveling off and a slight drop last year. So if that continues, then we may get closer to basic aid.
Yeah, and there's a couple other things that impact us, right? So one is those charter school students do not have to be residents of the area where the property taxes are being collected from, right? So your online charter school that has students from Riverside, those still count against our property tax base. So that's a large part of the issue. The other part is something that's happening actually in a lot of declining enrollment neighborhoods, which is it's a great place to live and people are staying in their houses forever, and their property tax doesn't go up, which is fine. So for them as living, but when neighborhoods roll, that's when property tax increases go up faster. So it's a sliding scale between the rate at which property taxes are increasing because houses are rolling, being reassessed, right? And we know that when a house has been owned for 30 years, it gets reassessed, the property tax changes drastically. And declining enrollment. So the districts that you see that are in basic aid, that enjoy being in basic aid, because there's some districts that don't enjoy it. Rural districts generally don't enjoy being basic aid. It's not good for them. Or districts where you've got really, really, really small student populations and very, 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 very expensive homes. Laguna Beach being the primary example around us of a basic aid district where the property tax base is high, the student population is tiny, and so their per pupil funding is very, very high because they get to keep everything they would have kept on our funding formula plus all of the extra property tax that they get. So there's not much we can do. Like, we don't want to push students out to get to basic aid. That's definitely not a plan. And we can't force people to sell their homes to increase the property taxes. So that's not a plan. We can work, and we are working with the county on, enacting or not enacting, but supporting legislation at the state level that says, like, if the kid lives from Riverside or LA or some other county, like, how does that impact our property tax base, and how do we work around that? Is there ways to work around that? And there's no clear answer yet, but it is something the county is working on with us. So we'll continue to keep you updated. As of right now, if our enrollment continues to decline slowly, that takes a lot longer in basic aid. People live in their houses a lot longer. That takes a lot longer. It's the curse of a beautiful community where everyone likes to live there and everyone likes to live there forever. And so there we are.
And that particular charter school that you're talking about that houses a number of students, approximately how many students is that?
The number changes sometimes, but last year it was
3,800?
it was just under 5,000 last year. It was like 4,800 last year. And only 107 of them were from the Capo Unified area. So
that's why it's so
vast and large.
significant,
It's a
the
huge
work
number.
that we're working with the county to try to make that change, because if we're a 40,000 student district, approximately,
So-
5,000 is a lot of students that are not from our district.
So are we
keeping that in
saying
perspective.
Newport Coast and Laguna Beach may have charters, but they're selling homes at a faster rate and more expensive to compensate if that were the case?
And they may not have as many charters. They may not have online charters that are so large. They're a smaller area. Like Laguna Beach is just a tiny area. It can't sustain as many charters in private schools. We are a geographically gigantic area, and so we can sustain those types of things. And so it's not a simple formula. I mean, it's a simple formula, but it's got a lot of societal complexity to it. So, like I said, we'll continue to work with those things. I mean, if you're a charter school kid and you live in our area, there's no problem with that. That's fine. The property taxes in your area support your education. That's as the way it should be. But the question becomes, where's the extra money that should have been Riverside for a kid in Riverside coming when the kid goes to school here? Or is it an online school here and it counts here?
So reach out to your legislators in regards to that, so thank you. Okay, and thank you very much. And this is, thank you, Clark, and thank you, Philippa. Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger is absent. Trustee Adams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Thank you, and the motion carries 601. Moving on to 11-1, advanced placement. This is an information item only, and no board action is necessary. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Student Support Services, who will introduce the item.
Okay, thank you very much, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 11I, Advanced Placement Data Presentation. We are very excited tonight to share that our already high participation and passing rates for advanced placement exams, also known as APs, have again improved in the 2024-2025 school year, demonstrating once again an increase in rigor through advanced placement courses and access to college-level coursework. Tonight in our presentation, we will share an increase in the number of students taking AP exams, an increase in the percentage of students passing the AP exams, and an increase in the number of students taking college-level courses. So a commitment to rigorous and engaging teaching and learning is the foundation of our work in CUSD. And the ultimate goal of each and every student, achieving the 5 attributes in the graduate profile that you see on the slide here and at the back of the boardroom. And Dr. Irvis is now going to share the data with you as well as our next steps for continuous improvement, and then we'd be happy to answer questions. And Dr. Irvis, please proceed.
Good evening. So, doing it again. It's like every time I step. Okay. No, we're on what's next. No, we're going. The whole thing, we're done. That was the fastest
welcome. Thank you very
presentation
much.
ever. Oh, okay. It's a preview. Okay. Advanced placement classes in high school offer rigorous college-level coursework that helps students build critical thinking skills, time management, and specific skills in particular content areas. Earning high scores on AP exams can provide college credit or advanced placement in college course sequences, and potentially reduce tuition costs as students may be able to complete their 4-year degree in a more timely way. AP participation rate also strengthens college applications because it demonstrates academic challenge and readiness for rigorous courses at the college level. CUSD students took AP exams last year in 36 different subject areas. And we will share some exciting news as Dr. Merwin previewed on how they did.
I'm going to interrupt just 1 second. And one other thing that we also know is that when students take an AP exam, whether they pass the test or not, whether they even take the test or not, it actually has a strong correlation to later success in post-secondary options. So just the experience of getting into a course with that rigor in high school means you're more likely to be successful in 2- and 4-year universities, whether you took the test or not. So that's the focus on participation rate is a big part of that.
Thank you, and that's why it's part of the college and career indicator that we'll be presenting later on in the year. So we're going to begin with a look at some of the overall trends. You can see from the graph, last year, 40% of our high school students were enrolled in 1 or more AP courses during the school year, which was an increase from 23-24. The number of students in those courses opting to sit for an exam also increased by nearly 3%, with a pass rate of 88.63%, an increase of 3.7% from the previous school year. We're going to break it down a little further. While we saw increases in participation, testing, and pass rates district-wide, we've also focused on subgroup analysis. So the first set of data, the first column, is the information from the previous slide laid out so that we can draw a comparison. The light blue bar shows the percent of students in that overall category that took an AP course. The dark blue bar is the percent of the group who sat for the exam, and the yellow indicates the percent of the exams that were passed in that subgroup. So as we compare across subgroups, you can see that we had similar percentages of students sitting for exams and passing exams for our EVER ELs, Hispanic students, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Our rates for students with disabilities remain lower than the other subgroups, but we did see an overall increase and will continue to focus on supporting improvement in this area. What is exciting here is that we have had an intentional focus on increasing access to more students, encouraging them to try these rigorous courses, sometimes for the first time, and they continue to increase their success on a measure that is scored externally. So I know that trustees know that AP exams are scored outside of the district. So this is a nationally recognized measure of rigor and achievement. Additionally, what makes this particularly impactful is that we are seeing gains on the number of students taking courses and tests despite declining enrollment. So we have fewer students, but more students taking and passing tests. This has been a concentrated effort to focus on rigor K-12 and the results of the great first instruction in earlier levels and courses culminates in the results we're seeing validated externally. We wanted to provide this last graphic on AP exams specifically to show that we are exceeding pre-COVID passage rates by 10%. This is outstanding work by our AP students, their teachers, and all the teachers who prepared them along the way. And we know that is not done without staff and family support. So this is a concerted effort in our community to support our learners, and the gains are tremendous. While we're celebrating our overall passage rate of 88.63%, we do want to point out that we want to recognize courses that have a high passage rate over 90% and also a high number of students taking those courses. We even have a handful of courses with a 100% pass rate, and this is while at the same time we're increasing access to these rigorous courses and the achievement remains strong. As we're working with guidance teams on increasing access, we focus specifically on adding additional opportunities for our freshmen to experience an AP course for the first time, and that is through AP Human Geography, or as the sites call it, AP HUG, which was available for the first time, available last year at 2 of our sites. We are adding 2 more sites to AP HUG this year and look to increase that to all sites in the future. We also saw participation rates in our subgroups continue with the intentional work on access. So you can see those specific increases for our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, our EVER-ELs. Students with disabilities increased 17% in the number of students with disabilities who took an AP course last year, and our Hispanic students. Calling out a few highlights for all of our schools. Last year, all 6 of our high schools earned either bronze or silver honor roll, and that is awarded by College Board. It's called AP School Honor Roll. Now, that data has not yet been released for this year, but we anticipate all of our schools receiving awards and perhaps some additional awards as well. As we celebrate the rigorous academic achievement demonstrated through AP courses, we also want to recognize that students benefit from multiple pathways to college readiness. Dual enrollment with our community college partners offers an additional opportunity for students to earn college credit and experience post-secondary coursework while still in high school. We wanted to share that our high school students have 3 different ways that they can access these college courses and credits during high school. So articulated courses are courses that are CUSD classes taught by CUSD teachers that have been articulated with a community college who has reviewed the syllabi, reviewed the final exam, and determined that the level of rigor in that course equates to the equivalent course at college. So when one of our students, and these are primarily CTE classes, when one of our students takes an articulated course and earns a B or higher, they have the opportunity to apply for college credit for that course. So a student in auto, for example, who earns an A in one of our articulated classes can apply to Saddleback College to also receive college credit for that same course. Separately, we have our CCAP courses. These are courses that we submit to the board twice a year for approval, and they're courses that are either Saddleback College or IVC College. They are typically taught on our high school campuses, often but not always after school, by college professors, but they are closed to the outside, so they are CUSD students only. We have CCAP courses on all of our comprehensive high school campuses and our alternative campuses. Finally, non-CCAP college courses are any other college course at one of our community college partners that a student wants to take. So they complete a special admit form with us in the guidance department. That approval goes to the college, and then a student is able to sign up for any Saddleback College IVC course that they are interested in taking, and they can choose to have that college credit applied to their high school transcript as well. So in looking at the impact of these opportunities for our students, the data shows that we're increasing the number of students enrolled at Saddleback College overall, and for 3 of our subgroups. You can see that between 22-23 and 24-25, the number has increased by roughly 3%, and we're going to continue to look at that and support that work in partnership with Futurology, CCA, and other guidance members. So we'll continue to look at this, and we'll specifically be focusing on how we can support our students with disabilities to enroll in college coursework. Additionally, tracking the number of our students who are enrolled in articulated courses, you can see again that has increased for all of our students, our ELs, our Hispanic students, and our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Again, while the number has improved from 2 years ago for our students with disabilities, it took a decline this year, and again, we'll be focusing on how we can support those students to complete articulated courses. So what's next? As we look towards the new school year, our work around rigor and access continues, including ensuring that students and families are aware of all of these opportunities and that our staff is supporting every one of our students to excel in their path. Thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards on this item? We do not. Okay. And trustees?
I have a question. I'm sorry. Today I sat on a AVID webinar, and so it strikes me, it was another nationally recognized, like our San Clemente High School, out in Moreno Valley. I wrote it down here somewhere, whatever school was on with them. But I'm assuming in these AP stats, Hispanic, that the AVID students are kind of in here with that. Not that they're all Spanish. But what I would like to know, I'm always asking Dr. Brown, we pay money for these programs. What are the results? Is it worth the money? So would it be a big question to ask if ADVID could be pulled out, that we could see, because that was part of the webinar today. They were so proud to be able to say about their AP courses and their pass rate of their AVID students. I would like to know that about our AVID students. And then if that's the case, I think we have the case for, there's something very right about AVID and our approach. And when we're struggling so hard to get the Hispanic, maybe we should be doing more with AVID. I know it costs more, but so if it's not too much to ask, I'd love to have that number pulled out and seen in the chart.
We can absolutely provide that information. And in addition, AVID has the expectation that every student in AVID will take an AP course during their high school. And so they're very intentional about supporting students to do that work. And so there will be a correlation in the data because we are aware of that. And we do see it as a really promising opportunity. In fact, we were just talking today, we had an AVID training, so the national training, but housed here at San Clemente High School specifically for our secondary special education teachers, because we want to bring those AVID strategies, expectations, and model to our students with disabilities as well. So same idea, and so we can look for our Hispanic students and the data there as well. But we're being very intentional about that work, and we agree that AVID is a great avenue to increase that.
Well, and in today's webinar, they announced that their big conference is going to be in San Diego this year. So maybe we could look at more, being it's locally enough to drive, maybe some of our special ed teachers, more people could attend. Because we went, Trustee Davis and I, a couple of years ago down in San Diego for the AVID. And that was just such an eye-opener.
We had a large group in the first San Diego conference. The second San Diego conference just completed, and Anaheim. And so we have been sending teams from our AVID sites to those conference opportunities, including staff with special education background. But what was unique about today's training is it was housed here, so more accessible for teachers to get to before their instructional year has begun. So really appreciate them taking those 2 days to spend that time, and the feedback was incredible.
Thank you. Trustee
Great, thank you.
Let me add on to that. I appreciate your comments on that. I would really love to see a subcategory for AVID, because I think that will really help us in so many ways in how we're supporting AVID and the way that we're looking at it and moving in that direction. So I'd love to see that as well. Thank you. Other questions, comments? I think Trustee Jones, you had something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I'm wondering how much, and we may not know, the dual credit enrollment kind of cannibalizes our AP numbers. Now, most of what I've seen here is we're talking about a student that's taking one or more. And I think probably most students who are doing dual credit are also doing AP, or have in their career at some time. But I was just sort of wondering about that. And so that's one question. The other question is about International Baccalaureate. I don't know whether, having taken an IB class, I don't know whether those classes are roughly equivalent to AP classes. We often talk about them in the same breath, but I don't really know if they are. And I noticed, for example, that Capital Valley High, which has a very active IB program, I believe more than San Clemente High School, although I don't know that, didn't have much AP increase. And I thought perhaps that was because there's so many students taking IB classes there. So is that something, can you talk about that at all?
We could pull that information for you. IB is different than AP. There are other things that students need to do and submit to national or international scores. So for example, in AP, students sit for an exam on a specific day nationwide. IB students might be submitting an essay or something else to be graded outside of the district as well. So those numbers are smaller, but a student would likely, if they're an IB student, they're taking IB exams versus AP exams. So that could definitely have an impact at a school like Capo Valley.
Right.
As far as
I'm sorry, finish, go ahead.
As far as the impact, I think you said cannibalizing of our courses. So we have board policy around how we credit college courses, and it's in the elective category. So a lot of our AP classes also count towards graduation requirements in English, math, science, history. And so those would all be done internally here in Capo. But we have students, the number one would be world language at a community college. So it's not impacting the graduation requirements other than an elective or world language offering. It's sort of a balance between providing the opportunities at community college and keeping students here with us for graduation requirements.
And when you look at
Right, but they could be taking like a VAPA class on a community college campus, or a world language class that is a graduation requirement. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, but they can't take anything in the English, history, science, math. So if you look at the courses from the slide that had the highest participation classes like AP US History and Biology and AP Lang and AP Lit, the 11th and 12th grade English classes, because what's happening is students are substituting the AP course for the traditional A through G required course, English 3 or English 4 or math. So because that's the policy, that there's a hard limit to how much a dual enrollment course could stop kids from taking AP. So you may see less AP Studio Art, perhaps. Those numbers were never going to be robust. Same with AP Spanish. But the siphoning off of students from AP to dual enrollment is probably not that great.
But what I was asking about, IB was, are those, the idea of an AP class is that it is the same as or very similar to an actual college class. I don't know whether an IB class is considered in the same way. Is it considered to be of that rigor? I know they're different, but is it a similar amount of rigor?
Yes.
Okay.
Both would argue the exact same.
Okay, okay. So I guess I have a little frustration with the numbers because I feel like we are, you could have students who, it's like their senior year, they're not going to take any AP classes, they're just going to graduate. You can also have freshmen, and I know we're encouraging more freshmen and we are getting more freshmen, but I don't think the freshman numbers are ever going to be like the junior numbers, because junior year is probably the big year for AP classes.
Well, Trustee Jones, they shouldn't, because
Right.
they're freshmen, right?
Exactly.
But by the
No,
time
I
they're
agree.
juniors and
Yes.
seniors, then they should be having an opportunity
Totally,
to be prepared
totally.
for college.
And you had asked this question earlier. And
Yes.
so we always appreciate the time to pull numbers for questions. And so I think the point is overall, we have the number of roughly 40% of students were enrolled in an AP class last year. But when we break it down by seniors who ever took last year an AP class, it was 68%.
Okay, so if
So
we,
your
yeah,
assumption is correct that
right,
perhaps they weren't enrolled their senior year, but they did take a course sometime
Right.
in their high school.
they weren't
So-
enrolled probably their freshman year, maybe not their senior year, but sophomore, junior, lots of kids are taking them, and I guess I'm more interested in seeing sort of the whole effect, kind of, our largest classes are our senior classes. And so if we are kind of overweighting that, where, like I say, a lot of kids are kind of checked out and they've had it, we're not really seeing the big picture of how many kids are participating, not doing it now, but in general participating.
And what you're suggesting that the data confirms. So
Okay,
last year, by 9th grade, it was 10%. This didn't make it into the presentation because of timing, but
Right, right.
I can share it with you separately. But by 10th grade, almost 40% had taken an AP course. By 11th grade, 59%, and by 12th grade, I mentioned 68%. So
Okay, yeah,
it
and
does
that's
go
a better
up
way of
that they
looking at it.
may not be enrolled their senior year, but during their high school years,
at
they
some
took a
time
course.
during their career, yes. And that's what I think I really appreciate. It's just knowing that number of, we have ever ELs, we could have ever APs, or even ever APs and IBs and dual enrollment, because it's all, from what you're telling me about IBs, all about rigor. And so what percentage of our students are challenging themselves sometime in their career with one of these options? Because I think that's to me more meaningful than just how many this year or how many right now. Okay, that's enough.
And we'll take that feedback moving
Okay.
forward. Thank you.
Thank you. When you're discussing rigor between AP and IB, having two kids who went to Capo and a daughter who just couldn't decide whether to do the IB route or not, talked to so many different friends. Dina Kuba, and I think the students there would tell you IB is far more rigorous. The amount of projects and deep studies that they do. That was always my impression, that IB is, even beyond AP, because the group of friends that my kids hung with, they were all in AP classes, and practically all of them, together and such. But then there was that IB bump. So I find it interesting if you're saying you think it's on par, because the students really don't think so.
Right, and I can't be asked to pick my favorite. I'm not going to do that from here, or which one is more challenging. However, that one of the differences, and you just pointed it out with IB, is they have more requirements along the way and through the year as to projects, papers, and things. AP, what they provide the content, recommended resources, but it's the test. So could a teacher teaching an AP course have the same number and the same rigor in assignments as an IB course? Absolutely. But is it required by the program? No, it's not. So it would depend on which IB courses students are taking and which AP. IB also has sort of a 2-year project that students need to complete that has a lot of pieces to it and is assessed externally. And so it, depending on the student's experience and the courses they take in IB, it could be more big projects and papers.
Yeah. Well, and I have an issue with AP about really, teach to the test, because there is a teacher at a school who doesn't teach to the test. And then I heard from a lot of parents who said, well, my kid wasn't well prepared. And my 2 STEM kids loved that teacher because that teacher didn't teach to the test, taught them what they needed to know. And in fact, once they went through college, said, that teacher was still my best physics teacher in that. So, yeah. So they may have missed some scores, but they were better off for learning what was needed to, educationally, what they needed to know.
And we all know students and people who are great test takers and may be somewhat mediocre students, but when it comes to the test, they do very well. So the AP would fit that profile particularly
I guess
well
I would
and not.
caution us for trying to use anecdotes to compare 2 very different programs to each
Yes,
other.
well,
But I think
okay.
they're both examples of rigor. They're both nationally normed, so success in either one of those have been shown to correlate to success in lots of other areas. Whether you pass the test or not, whether you get test take or not, whether you're good at writing papers or not. So I think they just meet different needs for different groups of students. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot from this dais is making sure that we try and have something for all of our students, right? So not all of our students are going to take IB or AP. Some are going to go through CCA courses. Some are going to do both. Some are going to do neither. Some are going to do dual enrollment. That's why we started adding that, right? Because ultimately there's going to be a hard cap on some of these numbers, right? Like we're not going to have 10,000 kids taking AP in high school at some point because there won't be enough kids, right? Like, so like, oh, you did worse. No, we didn't, because it's about how many opportunities for rigor are we offering kids. So AP is an opportunity, AP, IB, CTE coursework, CCA, CCAP courses, non-CCAP courses, articulated courses, they all provide opportunities for rigor for kids so we can meet kids where they are based on their strengths. And all of them have correlates to strong outcomes in post-secondary life. So we like to see increases in any and or all of them. And then things like AVID, which support them, right? Great first instructional strategies would support them. Like most kids are not successful in AP if they didn't have great foundational structures in elementary. So it all works together for us as an outcome.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
I want to make one more comment.
Okay, Trustee Wilkes.
Because I'm always talking about continuity, and you all know that. And my frustration is that we offer IB in middle school, and then IB does not offer 9th, 10th grade instruction. And so our continuity takes a dip in terms of those kids in middle school going through IB. Once they're out of it, they don't all go back into it, in their junior year. And it'd be interesting to take a look at that in terms, because it is expensive, like Abbott, everything costs. But I don't get why IB is not on board with this trajectory of going, moving straight through. But it's a frustration of mine because I think we lose something. They gained, and then they, like summer dump. You don't have it, and then it's like, well, I don't know, maybe I won't take it in my junior year. Just an added comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. On slide 5, the number of students in each subcategory, what are those numbers? Because it's a very different conversation when we're talking 2,000 students, 242 students, or 12 students.
The subgroup AP
So if we could go back to slide
participation,
5.
Excellent with the remote, so let me make that happen.
Thank you. You're just quite the expert at it now. I think it was on this one right here. all, every L, Hispanic, SED, and SPED. What are those numbers?
Of total students.
Yeah, if we could pull that and
Yep,
have, because it'd be,
absolutely.
especially on each, as we move further over, I have a feeling those numbers might be a little smaller.
Well, one of the reasons we do percentages
Yes.
is to see that. One of the reasons you do percentages is because the numbers aren't equal, so you're looking at percentage of a subgroup. So the idea would be you want to see similar percentages because you're never going to see similar numbers because there's far more of one type of student or far less of one type of student. But when you use a relational percentage and you go, okay, so 26% of our every ELs, but 40% of sort of all students. So we want to see that 26% get to 40%. Now the number is for all is going to be, I don't know, 40% of 6,000 or whatever it is. No, 40% of 15,000. So it's a much bigger number. So when you look at just the numbers, you get it's going to be, wow, nobody who's EL takes it, but that's actually not true, right? So that's one of the reasons we don't put numbers on the first, is because it can lead to thinking like, oh, wow, no SPED kids taking it. It's only 100 kids. Well, but that's because there's not 40 or 15,000 of them.
100%.
So we use relationals so that the gaps are still effective. So what you really want to see is that there's no gaps between them, but you'd want to see eventually that we get to the, like, if it's 40% of the all student cohort, then it's also 40% of the every EL student cohort, 40% of the Hispanic student cohort, right? You want to see a relational property. So what this shows is that while it's increasing, it's still a gap.
100%. I just would love to see those numbers as well at a later time. Thank you. And then I just wanted to confirm if the cost associated with taking an AP class, is it covered by CUSD if a family is unable to? So I just want to make sure that we share that out with our millions of listeners.
Thank you. And
Thank
yes,
you.
we have fee waivers for families in need. And one of our intentions is to make sure that our families are aware.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and this is an information-only item, so there's no board action. Okay, we're moving on to 11K. May I have a motion to approve board policy? Thank you. Board policy 6173, formerly 6176. Education for homeless children on the first reading and waive the second reading.
You moved.
Judy, would
I'll
you
second.
remove that? Just so I finished.
Oh, so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by trustee Bullock, second by trustee Adams. And I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, School Student and Support Services, who will present the item.
Thank you, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 11K, first reading board policy 6173, formerly 6176, education for homeless children. Dr. Michael Gomez and I are available for any questions you may have. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
There are none.
Okay, there are none. Trustees, discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion carries 502. Moving to 11.1, may I have a motion to approve board policy 6020, parent guardian involvement on the first reading and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Jones, seconded by trustee Adams. And I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin.
And thank you again, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 11L, first reading board policy 6020, parent guardian involvement. Dr. Gomez and I are again available for any questions you may have. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
There are none.
Okay, there's none. And trustees? Trustee Jones?
Two things. I don't think we can waive the second reading, but we can put it on consent the next way around. Let's just, okay. I do have one word I would like to change. In the very first sentence, it says the Board of Trustees acknowledges that parents and guardians are the children's first and most influential teachers. I'd like it to say the Board of Trustees believes that parents and guardians are their children's first and most influential teachers. Acknowledges instead of acknowledges. Because I think that's stronger, and I think we do believe that.
I prefer to keep it acknowledges.
Really?
Knowing, I mean, with the definition of those two words, I'm inclined to keep it as acknowledges, but others?
I would agree with you, President Davis. I feel like acknowledges Yeah, it's commonly understood, so we acknowledge a fact, yeah, as opposed to we believe it, other people could not believe it, you know.
Okay.
And just for information, this will come back on consent. We only have 5, so we can, that's just information.
Same with the previous item, so the
With
previous policy.
both of the
will-
two
they'll both
items.
be back
Yeah,
on consent.
previous
Thank
item,
you.
yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Hayes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion passes 5-0-2. We'll move on to consent calendar. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item?
We have one speaker card, Samantha Tarr. Go ahead.
Thank you. As Ms. Hayes said, my name is Samantha Tarr. I'm a parent in Capistrano Unified School District. I'm speaking to the minutes of last meeting and the lack of discussion surrounding the impoundment by the White House and the ICE raids and how they're affecting enrollment and safety for students. I want to preface my statement by saying that I'm a governed, which means I love government. I love learning about government. I love it so much that I was a political science major in undergrad and I went to law school eventually. The second thing that I want to say is I'm a Christian. And you can imagine that those two worlds often collide and struggle and wrestle with one another. I emailed the board earlier this month, or last month, excuse me, about their advocacy for those funds to be released. And let's be specific here. This wasn't a regular freeze. This was an impoundment, which means that Congress passed the funds and then the president decided to withhold them. This hasn't happened since the Reagan administration towards education funds. And the last time a president went after funds and impounded them regularly for punishment purposes was Richard Nixon. It affected the government and the people of the government so greatly that Congress passed the Impoundment Act to prevent it from occurring again. President Trump has signaled over and over to this country he does not care about immigrants. He does not want them here, any kind of immigrant, but specifically the Latino community. So he froze funds that were connected to ELL students. He froze funds connected to professional development for teachers teaching ELL students. This wasn't a run-of-the-mill situation as Trustee Jones tried to imply. This was a very specific, targeted he did it, to remind people of his hate for that specific population. So I emailed the board to say, what are you doing about this? After all, it's your job to advocate for students and advocate for their education to be funded. I got one reply from Trustee Jones, in fact. And she told me that she didn't know about it. She reminded us again tonight that she didn't know about it. What does it say about our board that you don't know about the funding bills that are happening? That doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies as a parent. Twice now you've admonished the parents of this community, by the way, Trustee Jones. You've told us we shouldn't be worried about the new elected board members, when time and time again, they have shown us they have a Christian nationalist agenda, which forces their beliefs on others. You admonish those same parents again tonight, including myself, for not caring about state issues. These are the parents that sit in advocacy meetings, go advocate in Sacramento, they're on CAC, they advocate for students all across the district, and you have admonished that group specifically.
Okay, and do any trustees have any consent items they'd like to pull? They did bring none, thank you. I have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Bolkus, seconded by
Second.
Trustee Adams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0-2 to approve the consent calendar. And may I have a motion to adjourn? Before we adjourn the meeting, I'd like to recognize that we'd like to close our meeting in honor of Dan Birch, who was our first principal at Tesora that has recently passed away. So if we can just take a moment of silence. Thank you. And we appreciate his work and all that he has done. And I know he's in a good spot. Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Bullicus.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Jones. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5, and any opposed? Motion carries 502 to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 9:06 p.m. Thank you.